tired.
Oh, no. Came up?
Yeah.
Of course. Hold on. All right. Well,
It's showing recording already.
I know. It did. It is.
Oh, so we started? Are we underway?
We are, except we had to get that off.
And we had some kind of issue to start, which is like every time we do this. Well, let me just say this before we even iron out. If you think that this is smoothly done every time we do this, think again. And we'll say it that way. A very good Monday morning, everyone. Joe Benigno back with you again, the The Pain podcast. It's Monday. It is April 28th already, 2025. The Joe Benigno The Pain podcast brought to you by the Hackensack Brewing Company, by Need a Discount Tire, and of course, our friends at Manscaped. So yesterday, we had a throwback, just a classic NBA playoff game between the Knicks and the Pistons. The Knicks in one of the, you talk about a gutsy performance. Come back, blow a 16-point lead early, come back from being 10 down in the fourth quarter, and find a way to beat the Pistons 94-93 to take a 3-1 lead in the opening round, best of 7 NBA series, playoff series. Look, this was the best Knick playoff game I've seen since the 90's. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. This was a classic, physical, beating the crap out of each other playoff game. And let me go right to the final play before we get to everything else. The great performance by Brunson, the great performance by Karl Anthony Towns. We'll get to all that. The final play of the game, the Knicks are up 1. Last possession, 11 seconds to go, whatever it is. Detroit has the basketball to win it down by 1. They get the ball to their best player, Cade Cunningham. He's got a wide open, like 12-foot jump shot, dead straight in. He's wide open. He misses. A crazy scramble for the ball. The ball gets kicked out to Tim Hardaway Jr. in the corner. Josh Hart goes up to contest the shot by Hardaway. Does he make contact with him? Of course he does. Hardaway misses the shot. Game over. The officials don't call it. They bury the whistle like they should. And the Knicks come away with the victory. And I'm going to say this, and I heard Bickerstaff crying about this after the game, the head coach of the Pistons and all this. This game, every time, the officials in this basketball game, okay, and that's why they did the right thing at the end. The officials in this basketball game let the Pistons get back in the game because every time the Knicks went to the rim, they got hammered. How many times did Karl Anthony Towns basically get assaulted going to the basket in the second half of this game? We saw it time and time and time again. Guys getting thrown down on screens. We could go over, forget about it. This was an old-fashioned, 1990s Knicks Bulls, Knicks Heat, Knicks Pacers playoff game. That's exactly what it was. And I give the officials credit. I mean, they let them play. And at the end of the game, they weren't going to decide the game on a borderline foul call. Was it a foul? Yeah, but it was a border. It wasn't egregious. Hart didn't throw Hardaway down. So, to me, the Pistons have no gripe whatsoever about, the officiating in this game. And then, of course, the NBA, in their brilliant wisdom, some guy, Guthrie, comes down and says, well, they should have called a foul there. Well, of course. They should have called a lot of fouls in this game, but they didn't. So I don't want to hear the Pistons cry. You had the lead in this game. You had your best player, Cade Cunningham, who had a triple-double in the game. Best player wide open for the game-winning shot, straight in, 10-foot jump shot, and he didn't make it. So I don't want to hear it. Please, give me a break. And this was one of the gutsiest performing in this game. The Knicks were in control early. They get jumped out early, just like they did in Game 3. Similar type situation, jump out early, right? They had a 16-point lead midway through the second quarter, and then actually it was late second quarter, and then the Pistons went on this run. They cut the lead to 7 at halftime and really took the game over in the third quarter. And I got to tell you, watching this game in the third quarter, and as I said, the officials let them play and actually let the Pistons get back in this game because they weren't calling any fouls. The Pistons take the control of the game. They're up by 10, whatever they were up by, early fourth quarter, and then the Knicks made the comeback. And how about Jalen Brunson? So it seems like every game, every playoff game, Brunson at some point gets hurt, has to leave the court and go into the locker room. This happens again yesterday, or somewhere in the second half. Brunson comes back on the floor and goes crazy. Scores 15 points after he comes back. How many big shots does Brunson hit in leading the Knicks back? Layups going to the basket. He hit a huge three that eventually ties the game. I mean, you can't say enough about you. I mean, he is balls tough, Jalen Brunson. I mean, you just, there's no other way to say it. But the guy who made the biggest shots of the night, and I want to give some credit to Mikal Bridges, who basically all night was defending against Cunningham. So he had that job all night. He didn't do anything offensively. I think he was 1 for 12, going into the fourth quarter of the game. Hit 2 monster threes when the Knicks were in big trouble. The Knicks were down 10, maybe it'd been 11, and Bridges hits a monster three to kind of stabilize things a little bit. He hit another one later on, deep in the corner, tough shots, 2 big 3-point shots that he made. So let me give him credit. Anunoby played tough defense. Hart was hustling all over the court as he does. But Karl Anthony Towns, who I have been all over, especially, all year that he's soft. He's a 7-footer that wants to stand outside and shoot threes, and he can shoot them from way out. I can tell you that. No doubt about it. And especially after they lost game 2, and he was a no-show in the second half, didn't score a point in the second half of the loss in game 2 at the Garden and all of that. But Karl Anthony Towns has a monster game in game 3, scores 32 points, whatever it was. Had a monster game there, right from the get-go as the Knicks won that game by 2. How about the fact that the Knicks won 2 games in Detroit by a combined 3 points? How about that? Unbelievable. You talk about great playoff games. But it was Towns who really won the game for the Knicks at the end. Tim Hardaway Jr., who had a big game, hits a jump shot to give the Pistons a 4-point lead. Maybe there's a minute something left in the game. And you're not feeling good about this at all, right? Pistons are up 93-89. Then Karl Anthony Towns hits this fadeaway shot from a brutally tough angle on the baseline where he basically shoots the ball over the backboard, swishes it, cuts the lead to 93-91. Knicks get a stop on the other end, and then Towns hits, basically hits this 3-point shot from Ann Arbor to give the Knicks the lead, 94-93, and with about 40 seconds left. And then we know what happened after that. Knicks get the stop. What happened in the final play, in the final possession, and all of that. The Knicks actually had a chance. Brunson had an open lane to the basket on an inbounds play when the Knicks had 4 seconds left to shoot in their final possession and kind of rushed the shot at the rim and missed it. And that kind of set the stage for the closing play of the game. This was a tremendous basketball game. And I got to tell you, this Piston team, they're tough. They're young. They're tough. They play very, very physical. Give them credit for that. Cunningham's a great player. Dennis Schroeder's been tremendous in this series for Detroit. Hardaway Jr., the ex-Knick as well. He's really been good. Hey, I give the Pistons credit. They're giving the Knicks all they want. But at the end of the day, the Knicks lead the series 3-1, and they can close it out now on Tuesday. And this is interesting. What was it? The last 4 times going back all the way I don't know if it was 2000 or not, but the last couple of years, the Knicks have had chances to close it out at the Garden and have not done it in the playoffs. So we'll see if they can get it done here in Game 5 on Tuesday night, which would be great if they can wrap this up and get ready. And I don't even know, did Boston win? Ted, give me the final score on the Celtics last night. I believe they did beat Orlando. Yep. I think they're up 3-1. Just give me a deal on that. Yes. Because right now the Knicks and the Celtics are on a collision course to play in the second round. And I got to tell you this, okay? All right? I am pumped for this series. Let's get this finished off tomorrow night, Knicks. Let's wrap it up at the Garden. Let's not play any games. Let's get it done. Okay, I'm sure it's going to be another gut grinder of a game.
Celtics, 107-98.
Okay, so Boston won. So they're up 3-1. The Knicks are up 3-1. I'm telling you right now, and we know what happened all year where the Knicks didn't beat Boston all year. They lost to them 4 times during the season, got whacked in basically every game. Just remember this. I am pumped for that series because the Knicks go into that series where they're going to be a massive underdog against the defending champions. Nobody's going to pick them to win because of what happened during the regular season. And I'm telling you, they go into that series playing with house money, and they have showed me something in this series against Detroit. Now, they got to close it out now. Let's get it done on Tuesday. Let's not mince any time. Let's get it over with, all right? But what a tremendous game this was yesterday in Detroit. Great atmosphere in Detroit for both of these playoff games. All the old Pistons were there. Isaiah was there yesterday. Rip Hamilton, Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups. You go right on down the line. They were all there. Chris Webber was even in the crowd. Jalen Rose, of course, two guys from Michigan. He's been there cheering on the Pistons. Hardaway Sr.'s there cheering on his son, the old Nick nemesis from his days in Miami. I mean, we go on and on. Ewing was in the crowd yesterday. I mean, the atmosphere in Detroit was outstanding. Of course, Spike Lee's at courtside making a clown out of himself as usual. Let me just say this about Spike, okay? Spike, you're a great Knicks fan. I don't you are, okay? I'll give you that. Definitely a big Knicks fan. I think you're a fraud when it comes to the other teams, but when it comes to the Knicks, you're a legitimate Knicks fan. In spite of, that you sucked up to Michael Jordan and all the choke thing with Reggie Miller and all of that, it was all about you, but whatever. But do you have to, that's great. You want to go to every game, you have the capability to be in every game and sit courtside, that's phenomenal. All right, good for you. But do you have to make a clown out of yourself? Do you have to sit there, wearing, you couldn't stick out more than you do. I got to tell you, can't you just root quietly for the team? Do what Woody Allen did for years. I don't even know if he still goes to the games or not, but he wasn't sitting courtside. He was sitting in the crowd. You didn't even know he was there. But that's not the way Spike rolls. Spike needs to be seen. We know that. But nevertheless, I just had to throw that in there. But, whatever. Great wins for the Knicks, no doubt. Now get it done. Wrap it up Tuesday night in the Garden. Let's get it over with. And as I said, I am looking. I was down on Karl Anthony Towns, man. I am looking at him in a totally different light now. And I got to tell you, I am excited for Knicks Celtics. Because, like I said, the Knicks will go into that series playing with a lot of house money. Who knows? Maybe, like I said, both teams have to finish their series off. I'm sure that Boston's going to finish off Orlando in Boston, whatever that game 5 is. Maybe Wednesday, maybe? I don't even know. It might be Tuesday as well. I don't know. No, it doesn't matter. But the Knicks need to get this done and get it done on Tuesday night. This has been a tremendous 4-game playoff series. Even though the Knicks are up 3-1, God knows it has not been easy. And I don't want to hear anybody with the Pistons crying about that last play of the game because the officials let the Pistons hammer the Knicks all through this basketball game. And I give the officials credit for swallowing the whistle and not calling that foul at the end, not deciding this game that was, that they let them play the whole game and not deciding it with an official's call. Thank you. Rarely did I ever thank the officials in any sport. I'm thanking them here. All right. Before we get to the disastrous loss by the Mets yesterday, okay, we'll get into all that. I want to get into the saga of Shedeur Sanders and all of that. We'll get into all. Let's do that now. Let's talk about Sanders here for a minute before we get to the Jet draft and all of that. But how about how they hosed this kid because of his father, and that this kid lasted all the way to the 5th round? And isn't it ironic, all right, that of all teams that finally get him, it's the woebegone Cleveland Browns. How about that? Wouldn't it be something if the Cleveland Browns, right, who we talk about a tortured history for a sports franchise, is got to be right up there. I mean, we could talk about this, endlessly with what Cleveland has done. They trade away Travis Hunter with the 2nd pick of the draft. I know they got that kid Graham, right? They dumped Baker Mayfield. They signed Deshaun Watson to probably the worst contract in the history of mankind. They've been looking for a quarterback for, eons on top of eons, as we know. They've been an out-and-out disaster. We all know about the drive. We all know about the fumble. We know what happened as the Art Modell pulled the rug out from under the Cleveland Browns fans and sent them to Baltimore to become the Ravens, where they've now won 2 Super Bowls and are one of the best teams in football every year. Oh, boy. Even stole one of the great Cleveland Browns of all time, Ozzie Newsome, Hall of Fame tight end to be their GM, and he was one of the best there was for the Ravens. And a franchise that's never been to the Super Bowl, has not won an NFL championship since 1964. Come on. Unbelievable, right? When Jim Brown was playing. And they may have, because of the, whatever the deal was, whatever the situation was with the sticking it to Shedeur Sanders and sticking it to his father, I think it was more sticking it to Deion than Shedeur, and that the Cleveland Browns may have wound up with their franchise quarterback, the first one they've really had since Bernie Kosar. Think about that, back in the 80s. Unbelievable, right? I mean, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable that they wind up with him. And how about Cleveland? They actually drafted 2 quarterbacks. They drafted that kid Dylan Gabriel from Oregon as well. How about my team drafting a quarter? How did the Jets, okay? And I don't know how this draft's going to turn out. I don't know that at all. All right? How did the Jets not even draft one quarter? Now, they signed some quarterback from Missouri as a free agent after the draft. That's the quarterback you bring in here? You couldn't have took a flyer in the 4th round on Shedeur Sanders? And I don't know how this draft's going to work out for the Jets. I mean, they should have a very good offensive line. They got 3 number 1 picks now in the offensive line and a number 2 in Tippmann, right? I mean, I don't know what they're going to do for the offense. I think I've said this before. They're going to run the wishbone. They're going to run the single wing. They're going to run the wildcat. I don't know. I don't think Justin Fields is going to be throwing the ball too much. You think Garrett Wilson was complaining last year when he caught over 100 passes from Aaron Rodgers? How many are you going to catch from your old buddy from Ohio State this year? So we'll see how the draft pans out. This offensive line, they built this offensive line to be the Hogs, to be the 7 blocks of granite, right? To be the Great Wall of Dallas. Well, let's see it manifest into that. With Fassino on one side, Membo on the other. You got Simpson, you got Tippmann, you got Vera Tucker. These guys have got to stay healthy. Vera Tucker's always hurt. Fassino got hurt at the end of the year last year. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see about the tight end from LSU, Mason Taylor. I like his bloodlines with his father being Jason Taylor. We'll see. We'll see how he turns out. We'll see about this cornerback from Florida State in the 3rd round that everybody's raving about. We'll see about this wide receiver from Georgia, Arian Smith, who's got great speed but drops passes left and right that they drafted in the 4th round. Or this safety, Malachi Moore from Alabama, who they traded up into the 4th round to get. We'll see. The bottom line is, and we could criticize, and I could criticize the Jet draft all we want, or anybody can. None of us have any idea how this is going to pan out. And the key to the Jets, and really, this is the key to the season. As down as I am on the franchise, it all comes down to the head coach, Aaron Glenn. If Aaron Glenn turns out to be as good a coach as he was a player, then we got something here. And he's acted like a real tough guy and all of this. We know how he handled Rodgers and all of the deal. They don't want Shedeur. They're committed to Justin Fields and all this crap. Well, we better find out how to. It better work out, Aaron. That's all I can tell you. Him and his buddy, Mr. Laughs, the GM, Darren Mr. Laughs Muhi, doesn't. This is a scary thought. And a lot of guys, a lot of my fellow Jet fans have said this, and it's so true. Doesn't Muhi remind you of John Idzik? Right? And how brutal a GM he was. He lasted 2 years. What a disgrace he was. He actually made Mike McCagnon look good, which is almost impossible to do. Mike McCagnon, who drafted Christian Hackenberg, oh my God, in the 2nd round. But nevertheless, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. And how about this other thing, too, by the way? I got to bring this up. How about this prank call that Jeff Ulbrich, thank God Jeff Ulbrich is not with our organization anymore, thank God, that Jeff Ulbrich's son prank called Shedeur Sanders, basically telling him that it was the Cleveland Browns that were going to draft him. How he found the number, I don't know. His father had his laptop open with all the numbers that he's playing, the kids. And, of course, Ulbrich is now he's the problem of the Atlanta Falcons. He's now their defensive coordinator. What a disgrace. I'm telling you right now, Shedeur Sanders is going to be a great pro. You watch. Don't be surprised, okay? Because this kid's now playing. You talk about a kid that was disrespected. You talk about a kid that has a gorilla on his freaking shoulder. Forget about a chip. He's got a gorilla there, all right? He's got a mansion on his shoulder now. I'm saying it right now, April 28, 2025. We'll find out when he starts playing. He will be, I'm going to predict he will be better than Cam Ward and Jackson Dart. Think about that. Remember, you heard it from me. Because this kid's got something to prove now. They screwed him, and I'm going to tell you right now, the Jets are going to rue the day they didn't take him. What a surprise. You heard it from me. All right. Benigno, and by the way, the great job by the Giants with the draft they had, getting Abdul Carter. And by the way, Abdul Carter, no, go get your own freaking number. There's only 156, and that's the great Lawrence Taylor. And you know what? You have eons to go to become anywhere near the player that LT was. In all due respect to LaDainian Tomlinson, who I really love, there's only one LT, and that's number 56 who played for the Giants, the greatest defensive player that ever lived. So Abdul Carter, go get yourself another goddamn number, okay? And I love the way LT reacted to it, too. That's basically what he said. Go make your own identity. Get your own number. Exactly right. So good job by LT, and we'll see. But the Giants did a great job with Carter, with Jackson Dart coming back in the first round. And how about and I love this guy. How about in the fourth round, they took the kid from Arizona State, Cam Scatterboo. Wow, that is a stellar pick by the Giants. If you watch this kid play in college at Arizona State, this kid is tough as nails. He's a football player. He's a running back, but he's a football player. He does everything. He had one of the great games you're ever going to see, even though he wound up losing it in overtime to Texas in the college playoff. He had one of the great games you'll ever see. He was unbelievable. He reminds me a lot of Taysom Hill in New Orleans. But hopefully for him, he'll stay more healthy than Hill has. But great draft for the Giants. I give them all the credit. I give Shane and Dable all the credit. John Mara. You really got to like what they did in the draft. All right, Benigno, the Oda Payne podcast. We'll get to the disastrous loss by the Mets yesterday. Let's get our sponsors in here. We'll let you know when the next live podcast will be at the Hackensack Brewing Company sometime in the middle of the summer, sometime in July. We'll let you know when that's coming down. Now, if you need work on your car, you need tires, you need the car inspected, any kind of work on your automobile, the place to go is Anita Discount Tire, Rivervale, New Jersey, and Westwood Avenue, beautiful Rivervale. We played golf there last week. Actually how about this? Okay, and I never, toot my horn as far as a golfer. I'm a below average golfer. Okay, maybe I'm average. Maybe there's days when I actually look like I'm pretty good. There's days when I actually look like I never played before. So that's where I am as a golfer. Okay, but my first hole-in-one I ever got, which is back in I think it was 2017, was the 14th hole at Rivervale. Long par 3. I actually did it with the driver. We played, my wife and I, my good buddy Tommy Keenan and his buddy Chris, we played Rivervale. What a great day we had there Thursday. 14th hole, here we are. Long par 3, right? Hit my driver again. I hit it pretty good, but I wasn't on the green. I hit it to the left of the green. I had to, I got a chip on. And I actually holed out with the chip for a birdie. So I've had a lot of good karma on that hole, I have to say. But go check out Johnny. Go check out Ari. Go check out everybody over Anita Discount Tire. They'll take care of you. Again, Westwood Avenue, Rivervale, New Jersey. And last but certainly not least, my friends at Manscaped. My protection has expired, as I'm being told here. Unprotected devices are perfect targets for cyber criminals. Shield yourself from millions of cyber threats by choosing McAfee today. How about that? I just read a spot for McAfee, right? And they're not even sponsoring the freaking show. How about that?
I think it's gonna come.
My wife thinks it's coming on again. So I gave him a little pop. Now,
I gotta renew it.
she's got to renew it. April is National Testicular Cancer. April, let me say this again, is National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, which is why I want to take a second to talk to you about men's health issues that are important to me and every man. Every man. Because testicular cancer can happen to anybody at any age. Let's be honest. Cancer can happen to anybody at any age. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what economic background. Doesn't matter. What race you are, it could happen. And Manscaped is making everybody else aware of it right now. They just dropped a special edition bundle that helps support an amazing cause. The TCS Ball Hero Bundle includes the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, my favorite of all the Manscaped products. Keeps everything nice and beautiful down there. She'll love it too. All of that. Everybody loves. She'll love it. Whoever will love it. And you got extra makes you look like you got extra inches and all of that. You got to love it. The 5.0 Ultra. Also, the TCS Special Edition and the Special Edition TCX Boxers 2.0. And you know how much I love the Manscaped underwear. You know, I'll be playing golf later on today. We'll be playing later on. I'm going to wear my Manscaped underwear. Keeps my balls in and all that. I don't have to worry about it. The only balls I'm worried about is the ones I'm hitting. And that's it. Join over 12 million people worldwide who trusted Manscaped. Use the code PAIN, because we got a lot of that, for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Tell them Benigno sent you. It's the best. You got to try. Really, and seriously, you have got to try the 5.0 Ultra, the lawnmower. It is the best. I'm telling you right now, you will forget about trying to, use scissors to cut, to trim the bits down below. You cut yourself. You don't want to cut yourself down there. I've done it a couple of times. It's very traumatic. I'm telling you. So, so you don't want to be doing that. Use the 5.0 Ultra lawnmower. Gets it done all the freaking time. And again, join over the 12 million people worldwide, men worldwide, who trust Manscaped. Use the code PAIN, 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com. Okay, let's get to the disastrous loss by the Mets yesterday. I've resisted, and the Mets are still 19-9. I don't want to get crazy. I have resisted ripping Juan Soto. And hopefully, eventually, this guy's going to hit. He did get a double in the game yesterday, walked a couple times. But let's be honest about this. He is a terrible outfielder. He stinks. And you can make a case that he cost them both of these games that they've lost now to Washington. They'll play the last game of a 4-game wraparound today, 4 o'clock this afternoon in D.C. with Griffin Canning on the mound. He's due to get ripped, by the way, too, so we'll see. But Friday night, 9th inning, and here's the other thing, too. We'll get to why Stanek is closing these games. Where the hell was Diaz yesterday? The Mets are up 7-6 going to the bottom of the ninth, bottom of the ninth. Where the hell was Diaz? Why is Ryan Stanek closing these games? He stinks. Now, he's okay, but he's not a closer. And he blew 2 games in his series. But let's go back to the game Friday night. Bottom of the ninth, Mets up 1. Stanek's in the game for reasons known only to Carlos Mendoza. Why wasn't Diaz in the game? I don't know, right? I forget who it was. Hits a fly ball deep right center field. Soto goes back to the wall. Ball doesn't even get to the wall. Gets to the warning track. Jumps up. The ball hits him in the middle of the glove. He drops it. It turns into a triple, and it sets up the game-winning inning for Washington, okay? Yesterday, Mets are up 7-6, and there was a lot of things in this game. Mets are up 7-1 in this game, 6-0, blew it. The bullpen blew it. We could go on and on. Jose Buto, who's not been any good, really gave it up in this game. We could get to that. The Mets had second and third. They're up in the top of the 9th inning. The Mets had second and third, nobody out, and didn't score. Washington played the infield in. Vientos grounded out. Marte grounded out. And Nimmo grounded out. And by the way, with Jeff McNeil back now, I'd sit Nimmo for a few games. I really would, because he's doing nothing. Nimmo's been terrible. I mean, forget it. Terrible. Sit Nimmo, let McNeil play left field today. That's what I do. McNeil in the 2 games, he didn't play yesterday. In the 2 games he's played so far since he came back from the injury, he's got hits in both games. Sit Nimmo, play McNeil in left field. That's what I would do today if I'm Carlos Mendoza. He probably won't, but that's what I would do. But getting back to the game yesterday, right? So the Mets have second and third. They don't score with nobody out. They don't score in the top of the ninth, and you knew they were in trouble, especially when I'm watching the game and I see Stanek warming up in the bullpen, and I'm screaming, where the hell is Diaz? He pitched the night before. He pitched 1 inning the night before. He didn't throw that many pitches. He struck out 3 guys. He struck out, I think, 3 guys or 2 guys and 1 ground out and walked the guy. Maybe threw 20 pitches. He couldn't come back and pitch yesterday? What was that? So when they didn't score in the top of the ninth, and I see Stanek coming in, I knew the Mets were in trouble. And they wind up blowing the game. Washington comes back, wins the game in the bottom of the 9th inning and all that. Terrible loss. Mets blow a 7-1 lead. But in this game, with the Mets up 7-1 in the 7th inning, right, when they came back against Buto, right, there's a pop-up to right field. Soto loses it in the sun. And it basically sets up the inning that puts Washington right back in the baseball game. You know, at some point, and maybe it's sooner than later, Juan Soto's got to be the DH, and that's it. He is terrible defensively. I know he threw out a runner out at the plate in the series against Philly. We've seen him do that actually a couple times. But he stinks defensively. He really does. You ever notice how anytime there's a ball hit down the line, a right field line or whatever, he's got to go down to the ground. He's got to go to the ground to stop the ball, right? He can't stop the ball on a dead run. He's terrible defensively, and he's not hitting. And I don't want to get crazy, but the fact that the Mets are 19-9 has camouflaged the fact that Juan Soto hasn't hit. The Mets are winning because the pitching has been great. The bullpen until, recently, which has started to give it up, has been really outstanding, right? Buto has been bad now. Stanek has been bad now. Their best guy out of the pen has been Kranick, Max Kranick. He's been great, Garrett's been great. Barzabon has been great. Those guys have been good, right? Even the kid Young has been good. Mint has been good too, but he got hurt the other day. He's going on the IL. I don't know when we're going to see him. And hopefully Diaz can close the game today if they're in position for that, which they, they don't have to be. It would be nice if they blew Washington out today. But, we'll see what happens. But I'm getting a little upset with Soto. And the Mets have won because Lindor's hit and Alvarez and Alfonso is hit. And 2 big hits by Torrens yesterday. To me, Luis Torrens has got to play. Even with Alvarez here back, all right? I got to see Torrens play more. He might be better than Alvarez. You can make that case. I don't know, man. Is he an everyday catcher? He played pretty damn good when Alvarez was out. I want to see him more. If you're playing 7 days a week, maybe Alvarez plays 4 and Torrens plays 3. But a bad loss yesterday by the Mets. No other way to say it. In a game they had won, in a game that they should have won, and a game that they blew. And I'm not going to get crazy. They're 10 games over 500. They're still leading the division. They got a 4-game lead, whatever it is, over Philadelphia in the National League East. But don't lose 3 out of 4 to the Nationals on the road here now, okay? And then the Mets come home. They play Arizona 3, and then they go on the road to St. Louis and Arizona. Need to win this game today after blowing that game yesterday. Need to bounce back and get a win today. And do you think maybe we'll see Juan Soto hit another home run this year at some point? You think that'll happen? You think he'll eventually hit a home run at Citi Field? Will he? We'll see what happens. All right. We'll be playing golf today. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Monday, right? It's almost May 1st. It's hard to believe. The weather has changed dramatically. Be in the 70s today, 80s tomorrow. Oh, my God. My tan is getting better and all of that. So have a great week. I will check you out against Friday. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Mets. Let's go. And as always, all the love. And, of course, God bless America.